The book, the website, my specific training, those three legs of the stool really would put a new owner in fabulous position to succeed. The infant mortality rate would go down because the new owner has a much, much better opportunity now to win. And he's doing more work that's getting paid for, and the franchisor, of course, receives an increase in royalties. It's just a win-win for everybody.
Welcome to the Mitigation Handbook podcast with Bob Jordan, where we explore practical field training for restoration professionals, particularly those new to the industry. Every week, we'll sit down with Bob Jordan, author of the Mitigation Handbook, and cover topics to help restoration professionals know what to do, how to do it, and where to get the equipment and tools to do it. Topics will include fire, water, mold, odor, and biohazard remediation, to equipment, supplies, training, and business operations. Bob Jordan is a professional engineer, trainer, consultant, and restoration contractor who brings tactical field training that goes beyond initial franchise training and into real-world execution. Whether you're a technician, project manager, estimator, owner, or franchise leader, you'll leave every episode with actionable knowledge you can use immediately. Bob, how you doing today?
Pretty well, David. Good to be with you.
This is very exciting. You're starting the Mitigation Handbook podcast. You've been thinking about it for a long time and you're finally doing it. What was your idea of the Mitigation Handbook podcast? What was the impetus that brought you to this point of getting started?
A little over a year ago, I actually published a book called The Mitigation Handbook. I had published this book and wanted to see how it would be received in industry. And so far, it's been received well. We've had, many sales, kind of triple digit. And although I'm not going to make the New York Times bestseller list because it's a very specialized book targeted at the mitigation industry, the restoration industry, I just felt that it was something that would be very useful to especially new owners, new people that are new to this field that don't know these specific ways to do stuff. And so
it's not a book that everyone's going to be reading on the beach, I guess, huh?
Probably not. No. Well, but when I wrote the book, it was for the pure intention of helping the new owner, because I was a new owner. We'll be able to talk about some of my story in time, but I was a new owner and I didn't know how to do the services that were advertised on my business card and my website and my vehicle. We were part of a national franchise, and there's only so much that a franchise can teach. And I had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way. I wish I had my book when I started. How's that? If I'd have had this book when I got started, it would have been a better story. So
let's talk a little bit first of all, let's talk a little bit more about the book, and then let's talk about the episodes and what people can expect from this podcast. So the book itself is the Mitigation Handbook. It's over the 20-year or X number of years that you've been working in restoration as a restoration professional. Where can people find out more about it if they actually want to get the book and get right to a lot of the content that you're going to be talking about over the podcast?
Okay. Well, as far as my time in the restoration industry, we are now entering into our 10th year of operation. So I've got, pretty much a decade of experience, and I'm the type of owner who's in the field. So these procedures and processes that are in the handbook are processes that I've proven, that I've developed, that I've talked with the chemist who developed the formulations, with the technical salespeople, with the equipment manufacturers, and with people who have actually used this in the past. And so from that, I put it all together originally for my team and then for others in my franchise network, and now it's available to anybody. So the best way to go about learning about it is to go to the website, which is called themitigationhandbook.com. And in there are links to, Amazon, Ingram Spark, Barnes and Noble. It's available on any platform. And
Great.
so really the best way to start is to go to the website. And then from there, you learn what you need to know too.
One practical thing someone could do, they could watch this episode. The Mitigation Handbook, I can go get it. They buy it and they read it, and they've already learned a whole lot of things about being a professional remediator and starting their franchise. But the podcast is going to go further, right? You're going to go beyond that and actually talk about that content. What can we expect from the podcast?
What I would like for especially new owners. Now, again, this applies to anybody. A guy who can have been in this business for 20 years, but say maybe he's never done a cigarette smoke odor job, or, never have cleaned methamphetamine or fentanyl. Okay. And then they want to start doing that. I will show them how to do that, where to get the equipment, where to get more training. It's the full meal deal. I've already figured out how to do all these things. I've already figured out the equipment, the chemistry, the processes. We've proven them time and again, and now they're being made available.
And the things that you are offering in the Mitigation Handbook is, it is complementary. It goes along with the training that they may get with their franchisor. So talk a little bit. Maybe there's a specific example of the type of training. If I were a new franchise owner, I would go get training, but then you take it to the next step. What would be an example of maybe one of the topics or one of the areas where that's most common?
Probably the best scenario for the franchisor and the franchisee is that I do 2 days of on-site training with their new franchise owners. So every franchise brings in their new owners throughout the year in a group. Group can be four owners. It could be 14 owners. And they bring them in and they go through a number of business operations. Maybe there's an IICRC course or two that are taught by an IICRC trainer. And of course, they're going to teach about sales and marketing. They're going to teach QuickBooks. They're going to teach estimating and things that are applicable to our industry, routes, vans and equipment. They'll offer them a new equipment package. I would call it an initial equipment package. And then the new owner receives his vehicle, he receives his equipment, he receives a modest amount of chemistry and supplies, and now he's in business. And on the side of his van, it says services, of which he may well not know what's going on. Here's a feeling that I have about it. So back in the day, way back in the day, most of the new franchise owners were people who maybe had been working in a franchise doing this work, and then they decided that they would either buy out the person who owned it, or they would start their own, or they would branch out. But they already had experience.
Like a journeyman kind of a route.
And that's how many people in many different industries do it. You start to work with your dad, and then, you eventually take over the business. But you've had experience before you owned it. Well, many franchises out there, the restoration industry is a very good industry to be a part of. And it's attracting owners who don't come from this background. Maybe they don't even come from a trades background. That was my experience. I came from a corporate background. So although I was capable in my area of responsibility, Now I'm coming into a new industry and they have specific tasks and objectives and methods to achieve those. And they're not intuitive. It isn't something that you just automatically know. If you work as a secretary at a law firm and then you become a secretary over at an aerospace firm, well, you just have to learn a few things about the new company, but you've already got all of the skills you need. You can type, you can word process, you can do spreadsheets, you understand filing and, timeliness and all of this stuff. As a basic example, well, you come from a non-restoration background into a restoration background or into a restoration company that you own. You don't have the skills to do it. You're not like the secretary who that applies all over the place, her skills. You're in an area now. So I remember the first time that on my website, it said mold and on my van and on my business card. And we got called right out of the chute. I was a brand new owner and we got a call to go and look at an attic mold job. And it was just 4 blocks from where I live. And I remember driving over there with my tech and going up in the attic and just looking around with just a great feeling of awe, like, okay, I can see what's going on. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I can see it, but what do I do? Your mouth goes dry, your heart starts racing, and it's like, I'm in business, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I had taken an IICRC mold course. I'd taken an IICRC water course, and those courses have their place and they set standards and, outcomes and what to look for and PPE and health and all of that. But
you learn about mold, and you learn about mold of how it grows and where to look, where it can find its corners. Yeah.
All important information. But what equipment do I use? What chemistry do I use? What processes do I use? And I just looked around and it's like, I don't know what to do. And I got help from another owner in my network, and he sent me an estimate, one of his example estimates, and I turned it in and we didn't get the job. And I couldn't have been more grateful to the Almighty because I don't know what I would have done.
But the point is that you offer training to help new franchise owners who find themselves in that position. They start a new franchise, they got the equipment, they got the chemicals, and they go and they're like, what do I do? You offer the training to them, 2-day training course to help get up to speed. But the podcast is content that you would put in that training. It's pieces of information. It's different situations that they could gather from this podcast and apply to the work that they're doing today.
Right. So in the franchise that I'm a part of, an excellent franchise who care a great deal about the individual owner, they initiated a mentor program. And I've been a part of that from the start. Now, when I came into this industry, I thought, and I didn't know what I was doing, like in the attic job. And I did that at a couple of early fire jobs too, where the whole house had been affected. And I'm looking around and it's like, I didn't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And I'd since taken my IICRC fire class and I still didn't know what to do. And again, the IICRC has its place. I've got multiple IICRC certifications. Our company is an IICRC certified company. We endorse the IICRC. It does really good at what it does. But my feeling was that there was a gap. There was a gap in actual specific equipment, chemistry, processes to actually do the real work. And in the mentor program, I was mentoring different new owners who were coming through the system, and my franchise pairs them up with an with an up and running business, and they're with us for a week, and, they get to see the different things that we do, especially in the field. And no matter who these new owners were, I was finding out that none of them knew what they were doing, regardless of background. And I thought I was the exception to the rule. I was the rule. The rule was anybody coming in, unless you have already worked in this industry, if you came in and you were a carpet cleaner, a carpet layer, a carpenter, you still don't know the specifics of doing the real job in the real world practically. You can have concepts, but concepts isn't going to put food on the table for you. You're going to have to provide a real tangible service if you're going to be successful in this industry. So I would train people over the period that they were here. So I would send them into the field with my crews. And then when they came back from like 5 to 7 p.m. or 5 to 8 p.m. every night for that week, I would have a chalk talk with them. And I'd put things up on the overhead, and I would explain stuff, and I'd show them things.
Down. Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I could do for training franchisors to train their franchise owners. And so ideally I would come in, I would train for 2 days, and we'd go over all of the essentials. I would explain calculations for water and, dehumidification and all of that stuff. I can explain all of that. But then also, we would hold real equipment. We would use real chemistry. I would use real techniques. I would show them how it's done. And it complements the book. So the book, the website, my specific training, those 3 legs of the stool really would put a new owner in fabulous position to succeed. The infant mortality rate would go down because the new owner has a much, much better opportunity now to win. And he's doing more work that's getting paid for. And the franchisor, of course, receives an increase in royalties. It's just a win-win for everybody. And that became more of a motivation. Every 2 years, I plan on updating the book. The book, however, obviously you can't have links in a book. So the website gets maintained, daily, if that would be a requirement. If I change chemistry, if I change materials, if I add something, which I've done since the publication of the book, I have added some more chemistry and some more equipment. In a couple of cases, the equipment's no longer available, so I pull that off of the website. In the book, next edition, I'll take that piece out and I'll replace it. I'm not married to any equipment, to any chemistry, to any manufacturer. I receive no compensation from anybody who's on my website or in my book, and that's intentional. I will not be paid by such people to promote their products. Anything on my website, anything in my book, I've used it, I endorse it, and I put it there because that's what we're using, and it works.
So you have real solutions, methods, protocols, equipment, tools for different types of restoration projects that that you can do well and make a lot of money in doing. And they have all this together in the Mitigation Handbook, in your training, and now on your podcast.
Yeah. And this isn't any theory. This is practical, useful, real world applications. I go into the field after our podcast today. I'm going to meet a lady that I spoke to yesterday about a cigarette smoke odor job. And she's concerned about certain parts of her, the structure. and I'm going to go meet her and I'm going to talk to her and I'm going to show her pictures of things that we've done and I'm going to explain what's going on. And anybody that I coach and, if I go to a site and I do on-site training, those people there, they've got access to me by phone for free. And not a week goes by for the past year plus that I've had my book out. Not a week has gone by where somebody hasn't called me or texted me photographs. Bob, this is what I'm looking at. What do you think? And, they don't call 30 times. Okay. They've got the book. I've explained things to them. They've got the website. I tell them to get this equipment, get this chemistry, get these supplies, and they do it. And then they're off and running. And then they know what they're doing.
The little boost.
So,
You said it was like giving a little boost, a little help out as you get started, like pushing them out of the nest.
Yeah.
But this time you give them wings. You give them some wings as they do it too.
Yeah. It's a confidence boost. I mean, when you come out of my training, you are confident that you can go into the field and do any of the services that are done by companies who do what we do. You have the confidence to do it. You also know that if you get into a spot, you can call me. I answer my phone. I talk to people and I'm happy to do it. And then so I'm an older guy. Okay. I'm in my, I'm 67. I started looking at this franchise that I'm in when I was 57.
Right.
Signed on at 58. And, we are now in our 10th year. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I'm a part of an excellent franchise and I'm in an excellent industry. And we want to be able to take care of people and do what we need to be able to do. And that's what, and so that's actually how the book came to be. I shared a little bit about, we first began the mentor program and I wanted people to be able to go back home with something tangible. So I would write procedures, water, fire, mold, odor, biohazard, hoarding, what do you do? How do you do this? Where do you get this? And how do you lay out your van and what equipment do you carry all the time and where do you put stuff? And I laid it all out. And as a result of that, I kept thinking about it and I kept handing out all these. I mean, I would send out 10 attachments to the new owner who came and spent a week with me. And then finally the light just went on and it's like, I need to put this into a book.
Put it together, organize it, put it together, make it available. Yeah.
And that's how the book came to be.
So I guess that's one next step people can do. Go get your book. They'll give you the background and the starting place and then come back to episode 2 where we actually start getting into some detail. Do we know what we're going to talk about next week?
We can talk about anything that people are interested in. Certainly we can, most everybody does water. Okay. So even organizations that say work on septic system or sewer systems, Roto-Rooter just passed a Roto-Rooter truck yesterday. And everybody knows what Roto-Rooter does. But then they also said water damage, they will do water damage. Stanley Steamer, that's another national name, and they do carpet cleaning, but they also now are doing water work. Well, they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
So, but water is probably the most common thing we do. So why don't we talk about water next week? And then maybe we'll talk about fire after that. And we'll talk about mold and we'll talk about odor. I'm going to go deal with the cigarette smoke odor job. Realtors love us. Realtors call us for attic mold and for cigarette smoke odor. I actually am a licensed instructor for teaching real estate professionals a course, part of their continuing education. And I enjoy it. And it's just letting people know what's going on. People are smart. The people who will listen to these types of podcasts, they pay attention. They want to learn. They aren't, screw ups. But if you don't know, you don't know. And that's what we're all about. So we're going to show how to get stuff, how to find stuff, what to use, where to use it, how to use it. And over time, we will give you a whole lot of good information that you can turn around and go out and start using.
That sounds great. Next week, water damage, and we're going to start unpacking all the detail, all the things that you learned over the 10 years, and everything is put in the book and your training, making it practical for new franchise owners to be successful.
Sounds good, David. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Bob. What do you think? That's good.